Hey guys, this is a second video for today, March 17th, a Tuesday. We're gonna go over the homework, 9 through 22, page 410. The objective again is simplifying trig expressions. The given in number 9 is tan multiplied by cosine. And if you rewrite the tan as sine over cosine, multiplied by cosine, the cosine simplify across. You can do that just in the case of multiplication. We can't do that if it was an addition. So cross out the cosine and you're left with sine. So we simplified it. We made it simpler. The second one, number 10, cotan multiplied by tan. We can write cotan as 1 over tan. Multiply by 10, we keep that. Again, we can simplify across because it's a multiplication. That equals 1. There is another way to do this one, which is cosine over sine multiplied by sine over cosine. And then everything cancels out to 1 as well. Again, there's no one way of simplifying. That's why you could have done that in a different way. You're more than welcome to text me your own way and I can check it. But this is one of the possible methods. So secant y is 1 over cosine, so 1 over cosine. And sine of pi over 2 minus y, we go back to the trig identities from yesterday. And those are the complementary identities because we talked about that. We said they add up to 90 degrees. And the sine turns into a cosine. So sine of pi over 2 minus y turns into cosine of y equals 1 because those two cross out. It's very, I would say, recommendable to, it's recommended that you guys put which identity you use, okay? I lost the word for a second, sorry. Okay, number 12, cotan u multiplied by sine. So the cotan is cosine over sine. And you can rewrite the u everywhere. It's also recommended that you keep writing the angle. So sine u, the sine cancel out and you're left with cosine. Now it becomes a little bit harder. Number 14, 1 minus cosine squared. If you go back to the important identity, which is the Pythagorean identity, 1 minus cosine squared equals sine squared. And let me show you this one because this is an important one. If you remember, we said cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1. So if I see right here, 1 minus cosine squared, I go back here. So I brought this to this side, 1 minus cosine squared equals sine squared. And this is how I got here sine squared. And I just copied the sign again. And sine squared divided by sine is just sine. Just like the idea of x squared divided by x equals x. Using the exponent rule, it applies to trig functions as well. Now let's look at the last one. It looks so messy, but when you look at it and you spot sine squared plus cosine squared, even if they're not back to back, you guys know with addition I can rewrite this as sine squared plus cosine squared plus tan squared. So sine squared plus cosine squared, that equals 1. So this is where I got the 1 from. And tan squared, I just copied it down. Secant, copied again. Okay, 1 plus tan squared, I think it was identity 12. I wish I had the paper next to me. Make sure next time I do that. But 1 plus tan squared equals secant squared. That's identity 12, I believe. Secant squared divided by secant equals secant. Just the idea, again, of x squared divided by x is x. Okay, so this is the first set, which was, let me see, 9 through 16. Now, 17 through 22. So we look at number 17. And sine, I can't do anything with it, so I copy it down. Cosecant of negative x, if you look at the odd even, yesterday we said two are even, everything else is odd. The even ones are cosine and secant. So cosecant is not even, it's odd. That's why I rewrite it as 1 over sine of negative x, which is, in a separate step, 1 over negative sine of x. So those two are opposite of each other because sine is odd. Now, when they simplify to a negative 1. The negative stays here, sine cancel out, and 1 over negative 1 is negative 1. Okay? Number 18. Let me see if I flip it this way. Sorry, guys. This is, okay. Let's see if I do it that way. It becomes better. No. Give me 1 second. I lost this. Rotate it so we can have better view of the problem. Okay, let me see if this looks better. We're on number 18. I'm trying to figure out things to make it a clear video. We are on number 18 again. So if you guys look at secant negative x multiplied by cosine, the secant is one of the even ones. So it's 1 over cosine. But in the next step, it remains the same. It does not change into a negative cosine. Why? Because it's an even function. So 1 over cosine of negative x multiplied by cosine of negative x. And since those two are exactly the same, they cancel out to 1. As you guys see, it looks scary, but when you simplify it, it is really simple. Cotan of negative x, copy it down as is. When I see pi over 2 minus x, I know definitely this is changing. The cotan changes into a tan, and tan of x. So cotan of negative x is 1 over tan of negative x. But tan is one of the odd ones because, again, the even are cosine and secant. So this is odd, so it turns to a negative tan of x multiplied by tan, and that simplifies to a negative 1. The next one, cotan of negative x is 1 over tan